What decision are you avoiding right now? And why do you keep telling yourself that you're just not ready to make it yet? Just because you're not acting on something, it doesn't make you indecisive. It means you're afraid. And when we're afraid, we allow fear to take over, grab the wheel, and drive. When we package fear up in a very convincing disguise to soothe ourselves, we're just delaying the inevitable. And the longer we delay, the greater the time, energy, and unintended consequences that we are going to have to face as a result. So, today we're going to look at what we do when we avoid the inevitable, why we do it, and some of the things that you can do to help pull that pesky band aid off once and for all. Over the years, one pattern keeps coming up with my coaching clients, and that is that they're stalled on one particular issue. That one particular issue that they know needs addressing. It could be a relationship issue. It could have been a job that they should have left. It could be a conversation that keeps getting postponed with a friend, a relative, or a staff member. And then when you ask them why, the reason is always the same. It's an external reason. It's somebody else's circumstances. It's a lack of information. It's a lack of time. But they never call out their own fear as being the reason that they're not taking action. I'm sure you know the scenarios, you've had them yourself. We've all had them. I've been there. I know I've done this same thing myself over and over. We've all been gripped by the fear of what might happen if we make a decision. It's the overthinking, the worst case scenarios that come to mind, and the sheer terror of having to face those. So we'd rather avoid them rather than weighing up the facts, not our stories, and deciding what needs to be done and then taking that action. We do everything in our power to avoid having to make the decision because then we're not responsible for the consequences thereafter. We have to realize that inaction is still a decision. It just doesn't feel like it. If we're avoiding it, we feel safe. If we're taking action, we feel unsafe. The reality is that action or inaction has a consequence. And the stories we make up in our head about the reason that we can't make it right now, she doesn't have friends, I don't have time, I don't want to hurt their feelings. What happens if this gets back to someone else and I'm, marginalized in some way? We're always making up excuses or why I can't rather than why I cans. The other pattern I see happening so often in people is that they run towards something as a form of self-soothing, rather than recognizing that they're actually running away from the thing that they know they need to tackle head on. They know they need to face. So they're saying, I love my job. I love coaching kids in the soccer. I love riding my push bike. Those actions are great if you're generally moving towards them because you do love them. But when you're using them as a crutch or as a way to justify your avoidance of the thing that you know you need to be addressing, it's still fear dressed up in drag. You're still running away from the reality of the things you need to do and take action on. And while the stories in our head play a big part in why we don't take action, and the running away from things and running towards other things, the thing that we often don't realize is what is the opportunity cost to the other people involved in this decision? Your inaction might be causing harm, suffering, grief, confusion, or discontent to somebody else. Now, is that your intention to cause that for them? Or is it simply that they become collateral damage because you are paralyzed by the overthinking of the fear based program that you're running? And you're not actually placing their needs and the impact on them front of mind when you're thinking about consequence to yourself. When we actually sit down and look at all the facts, not the stories in our head, not our fears, and we weigh up the pros and cons between all the things we're seeing in front of us, I need to think about whether I want to stay in this job and what that looks like for me long term. What does that look like for my family and my partner? How would that impact my team? What are the weightings of each of those factors? And at the end of the day, what's going to make me happy and be a solid, ethically, and morally aligned decision for me? We put off things for years in some cases because we think, oh, if I do that thing, that person will be upset with me. Yes, they might. But is that better than having them live a life while they're waiting for you or uncertain about you or having to put aside things they want to do that they haven't told you about because of your choices? So when you're thinking about these things, think about what is best for you, yes, but also think about what would love do in that situation. I had to make that same decision myself when it came to ending my last relationship. I had to sit there and say, I have every reason to stay, but I have a whole other suite of reasons to leave. And no one decision is going to be easy, and no one decision is going to give me all positives and no negatives. And I had to ask, what would love do? What would love do for my partner? But what would love do for me as well? And when I sat and looked at those questions, I had to realize that I was sacrificing so many things on the what would love do for me side that I'd forgotten who I was. So the decision became clear, even though it was extraordinarily painful for both of us. And it still is. There's still a lot of love there. But the decision was the right one and the action had to be taken. Now, did I take that action straight away? No. It took me 12 months of pain, anguish, overthinking, fear-based responses. But the more I started to recognize that they were fear responses, not practical, realistic facts, the easier it became to sit down, look at it on paper, and make a decision. So I'm not saying it's easy, but if you know that you have a decision that you need to make and you're not making it, you're not only hurting yourself in most cases, but you're potentially hurting someone else as well. So to avoid allowing fear to wear the costume of compassion, practicality, or patience, let's have a look at a few questions, a few deep dives that might be of use to help break open this analysis paralysis you might be suffering a little bit. Okay, the elephant in the room question. What decision are you avoiding making right now? Write it down. Put it in words. Look at it in front of you. What decision are you avoiding making right now? The next component to this is, what are the stories you are telling yourself about why you're not making a decision? And what are the actual facts? Is it you tell yourself you don't have time, but you really just haven't prioritized it? Or is it a case of, I don't want to hurt their feelings, but in fact, you're already doing that anyway? What are the stories that you're telling yourself? And let's break those open so we can get them out of the way. This next one is one I really want you to think about. Who else is living with the consequences of your inaction? What's the impact to the other people around you? And do you really know what they need, want, and feel? Have you weighed up all the facts properly, or are you just assuming? And the last question is, if fear wasn't a factor, what would you do? What decision would you make right now if you weren't harboring these fears? If you want to take that a step further, ask yourself, what would love do in this situation? Rather than, what am I fearfully avoiding? Because the difference between what I would do when I'm fearful and what love would do is a very different answer. And it might help you to make your decision more clearly. So whenever you find yourself stuck with a decision that has you trapped in fear or avoidance in some way, shape, or form, here's a couple of pointers about how to get past that. Firstly, name the real problem. Out loud or on paper, whichever you are. Separate what is an obstacle from the story that you're creating about the obstacle. And ask yourself, if this remains unresolved for another 12 months, what does that look like? And is that something you're willing to do? And the next couple of questions, of course, the most important bits are, you've looked at all the data, you've taken away the stories, you've looked at the consequence of leaving any longer. So what action are you going to take? And when are you going to commit to yourself to go and take that action? The better we get at this, the more practice we have. The more practice we have at this, the better we get at it, and the more confidence we build. And in doing so, we improve our relationships, our friendships, our situations in the workplace, and the way in which we feel about ourselves, because we know we're honoring ourselves. We're not putting off those things that are going to cause undue consequence for ourselves or others. And that's a good thing for everybody. So that's it, guys. Wrapping up for today. Here's what I want you to do. Go look at the facts. Go make your decision. And then take the action you know that you've known for a very long time that you need to make. So you can get on with your life. The people around you can get on with theirs. And you can release yourself from this fear that's been holding you back. And remember, not deciding to do something is still deciding. The only question is whether you are choosing to do this consciously or just letting time and unintended consequences choose for you. So get out there, look at the data, make a decision, and rip that Band-Aid off. All the best. Hello and welcome to Dichotomy. This channel was designed to support women just like you navigating the complexity of being human, the intersection between psychology and spirituality, to help you understand yourself more and to break free from those patterns that keep you stuck. Each episode will focus on one of three pillars: body, mind, and soul. Because transformation and lasting transformation doesn't happen in one dimension alone. It's the culmination of all factors connecting to our whole. Now, key to this also is to recognize that if you're struggling with something at present, you are not broken. You are in between chapters, and every part of you, your body, your mind, and your soul, is trying to process a life that's been radically rearranged. This is where psych meets spirit. And this is where, hopefully, Dichotomy will be your source of information and support. Hi, I'm Di Jones, a conscious creator, women's transformational coach, and host of Dichotomy. I blend psychology, spirituality, and contemporary development strategy to help you stress less and live more. There's new episodes every Wednesday, and I hope you can join us for the future of your evolution, transformation, and living your best life ever.